I'm Christina Chiappetta, and I'm a presenter for Pinkbike. I grew up in Slidell, Louisiana, which if you are not familiar with the United States, it's the most southern part. I actually loved growing up there. There's no mountains, no elevation whatsoever, but there's a lot of culture as far as the United States goes. New Orleans in particular, lots of cool culture, and yeah, we kind of grew up in the woods near the bayou, so it's way different than where I live now. Early life for me was just super fun. I grew up with 3 older brothers, and I was always trying to hang out with them and keep up with them. Louisiana is all about sports. I think it was around 10, 11 years old, I finally got my parents to sign me up for soccer. My life took a bit of a change. Hurricane Katrina, you guys might have heard of that. I was 15, 16 at the time, and yeah, it just kind of prompted me to get out of Louisiana. I moved in with my mom in Kansas at that time. I joined the men's soccer team there, which was a really cool experience. I've never actually played on a men's team before that. And yeah, because of that, I got recruited and played college soccer. College soccer was in Kansas at Butler College in El Dorado, of all places. It was an awesome experience, but honestly, after a year of college competitive sport, I was pretty over it. I needed some change. At that point, I was going into my second year of college, so I was 19 years old. I knew I wanted to change. I had been to Colorado with an ex-boyfriend, and I was like, man, Kansas is right next to Colorado. What am I doing over here in Cowboy Town? I could be living in the mountains. So I went to Colorado with pretty much no snowboarding experience. So you could imagine every season I was there, I was dealing with big injuries like broken bones and torn MCLs and surgeries. And it kind of became this recurring thing. I'd have fun in the winter, and then I'd get a big injury, and then I would spend the rest of summer dealing with it, rehabbing, and then winter would come back and I'd be so stoked again. And yeah, in the summer I was injured a lot, and so I just kind of had to watch from the grassy fields in Breckenridge at the volleyball court, and I just watched what everybody else was doing, and there was a lot of mountain biking going on. And so yeah, after about 3-4 winters in Colorado, I was healthy enough one summer, and my roommate had a mountain bike, a little hardtail. So I was like, dude, can I just take your bike out and see what it's all about? And they're like, yeah, sure. Literally after day 1, I was like, I'm sold. This is my new sport. I now have something to do in the summer when I'm not injured. From that moment, one of my girlfriends, JoJo, we snowboarded together, and she's like, yeah, I'm gonna get a mountain bike too. She and I literally had no idea what we were looking for, but we went in, we got matching Scott hardtails, 26-inch, all the gears, and we just sent it. A couple weeks later, I think we went to Moab for a week, and so that's literally where I learned to ride my bicycle, was Moab. And it was just dirt roads, we weren't hitting trails. I don't even know if there were trails back then, but yeah. It was hard. I would say all the gear, no idea, but I didn't have any gear. My little helmet back then, I thought it was cool because it looked like the skater helmets. Would wear high knee-high socks to protect my ankles. My first pair of bike shoes was actually an old pair of indoor soccer shoes because they're nice and flat and pretty firm. So yeah, I just kind of threw myself in there, but I had no idea what I was doing. So before I knew it, I actually had 3 bikes. Started on the hardtail cross-country bike, then I got the downhill bike for $300, and then one night at the bar, my buddy sold me his dirt jumper as well. So I just kept saying, yes, 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 I'll have that. The move from Breckenridge to Whistler was definitely not planned. Again, I just kind of grabbed everything and went. Colorado is known for road riding, extreme athletes, and cross country. So I was pretty keen to get out of that scene. I knew that it wasn't gonna be for me. And yeah, Whistler Bike Park, I just worked really, really hard all winter long, saved up enough money to buy a bike park pass, and just, yeah, threw my bikes on the truck, came up, and yeah, just started riding every day. I lived out of a tent probably for at least a month and a half in Whistler. And then, yeah, not too long after getting to Whistler, I met my current boyfriend, Sam. And funny story, I was hanging out at Sam's house one night, went back to my tent, and it had been bared. I don't know if that's a technical term, but that's just what I call it. It was a tent in the woods with like a little camo tarp over it so nobody would mess with me. And sure enough, like a bear came and just like tore it apart. There was nothing in there. There was no food, no toothpaste, nothing like that. I think it had just been there for a couple days. So anyway, that was around midnight. I go back to Sam's house and I'm like, oh my God, there was a bear in my tent. And from that moment on, he was like, okay, I don't know you, crazy woman, but you can stay at my house because I'd feel really bad if a bear attacked you at nighttime. Coming to Whistler, like I had no intention of moving here and making this my long-term home. I just thought, hey, I have a bike park pass, let's go camp, do some biking. But what happened was I came here and day one, I was just blown away and just had to figure out how to stay here a little bit longer. But I just started hanging out at Evolution Bike Shop because as a homeless biker, like you need somewhere indoors to hang out sometimes. Once I kind of like wiggled my way into that family, again, I knew like, okay, I have to come back to Whistler for winter. I love snowboarding. I want to check it out in the winter. And it was my boss there, Janine, who was like, hey, like, don't waste your time getting a work permit. Like, let's just get you residency. Okay, sure, I want to be a resident. And we just immediately went into that process, and she held my hand the whole way and supported me, which was pretty awesome. But yeah, it all kind of came together through the bike shop, which is, it's pretty nice, magical. So my first year riding in Colorado, I was just getting used to biking. I rode with a lot of guys that were really good, and there weren't many women there at all, which was kind of another reason that I wanted to go to Whistler. I saw that there were people like Katrina Strand and Claire Bouchard and Beth Parsons, and yeah, just some rad women, and Women's Wednesdays, and I was like, okay, I gotta go be part of this. So my first race would have been the second Wednesday that I was in Whistler. They do the Fat Wednesday downhill series. And again, I was just like new kid in town, standing there with my bike in the lineup, being not antisocial, but not talking to people because I didn't know anybody. I think I got like a top 10 on a Fat Wednesday, which if it's your local hill, you're like, ah, whatever. But for me, it was a huge deal. It's my first mountain bike race ever. And yeah, it just kind of sucked me in. I thought I wanted to be a downhiller at that point. I was on a Sete. I got it on like a deal. I think they had one extra small left for like, you know, $2,000 or something. And I was like, yep, taking it all the way to Whistler. My racing career from that first race progressed very slowly. So I was crashing all the time. So yeah, the first, I would say year or two it was pretty slow starting. I wasn't actually a good mountain bike rider at that point. And so I was just kind of building skills, like going to all the Wednesday night races religiously. And then it was probably, I want to say 3 years later, after a couple downhill injuries, I got introduced to enduro riding. My first enduro race was the Squamish Griffin. It was super low stress. And so I was like, oh, I can just go out and like ride with some friends. And I actually did really well, and I won the amateur category. So everybody's like, oh, you're sandbagging this and that. And I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. This just happened. It was a fluke. I won one stage, or I was like fastest through a section, and I won like $100. And to me, like that was amazing because I paid off my race entry. I was stoked. I was gonna be able to like buy a beer at Apres, and yeah, still just living paycheck to paycheck at that point, for sure, as you do with mountain biking. That was right before I broke my foot. Yeah, I was going home, caught my pedal on the tires hanging from my handlebars, and just hit the ground, smack. I broke the 3 middle metatarsals in my foot, just completely in half. I went to the doctor, they're like, she's broke, you need surgery. And I was like, no, I think I'm fine. And so I just went without the surgery, spent 8 weeks on crutches, and that was the rest of summer. That was all of July, August. September took me like the whole month just to learn how to walk again. The next year I think I did all the BC Enduro series. I'd have to double check, but yeah, we went places like Kamloops, the North Shore, Penticton, like some really cool places around BC. I did pretty well. There were some really fast girls, but I think I might have finished like second overall in the series that year. Once I kind of had that under my belt, I earned like a wild card entry into some of the EWSs. And so the following year I went to Aspen. That was my first ever EWS. The next month was the Whistler EWS. And I did like pretty good. I got 15th at that one. I was like, all right, like things are happening. And so that for me was kind of a bit of a turning point, seeing that not only was enduro getting more and more popular and bigger, especially for women, but seeing that companies had a bit of interest in it. So, you know, people like Transition, back in the day, I think it was Maxxis, like gave me some tires, and NRG as well, like a distribution business, like hooked me up with little things here and there. And that just kind of kept stoking the fire to keep doing it. Probably the best result that I've had is my 6th place finish at the EWS Whistler in the pro category. That was 2018. That entire season, like things were happening. I was healthy, I was strong, I did the right stuff in the off season for once. Some other good results that season were I went to Mountain of Hell race in France, Les Deux Alpes. That is for sure the craziest thing I've ever done on a mountain bike ever. I got second there. And then my other like result that I'm really proud of was second at Trans BC Enduro, which is 6 days of enduro racing in British Columbia. My worst race result and probably worst race experience would have been Italy, Canazei, who knows, the Dolomites in Italy. That was 2019. I actually got heat stroke on race day. The temperatures there, they were gnarly. Like that was the year that Tour de France, like riders were dropping out like flies. The Eiffel Tower was like, it was so hot, the Eiffel Tower was expanding and we were in the Dolomites just suffering. So it was after stage 1 of that race. It was like pretty grueling top to bottom, big stage 1, got to the bottom. I was like dry heaving and doing some pretty weird things, but like nothing really out of the ordinary, I would say. And then we were going over to stage 2. I got to the top where like everybody was hanging out, getting ready to drop in. And I just started projectile vomiting like out of a movie. Like it was, everybody around me was like, oh my God, what is happening? This girl's dying in front of us. And of course, as you do, like you've gone all that way, you're gonna do the darn race. And so I was like, well, I'm here. I gotta get back down to the valley. I'm gonna run this stage. Did the stage, actually had like a pretty good stage, but at the end of the stage, I like basically collapsed onto the ground. And so, yeah, long story short, for whatever reason, I thought I could get to stage 3, even after all that. And Georgia was with me and we got on the gondola together. We're going up stage 3 and I was just like puking in the gondola, like so far gone that she's like, Christina, you're gonna stay in the gondola, you're gonna go down. And I'm like, but I wanna get out and ride. And she's like, no. So thank God Georgia did, because who knows what would have happened. Like I could have freaking passed out while riding and have a much worse story to tell. But yeah, at the end of that stage, I just casually walked over to the ambulance there. They're all Italian, just hanging out. And I was like, hey, I'm sure it's nothing, but like, I don't feel so good. And I just threw up a lot. And yeah, they checked all my signs and everything. And literally like 5 seconds later, I was down in the ambulance, getting an IV. I just like left my bike off in a bush. That's how dead I was to the world. And I spent the rest of the day in the IV tent, just getting back to normal. So that's what we call a DNF. It's about as bad as it gets. Did not finish. That was a bit of a doozy. I was having like an awesome summer, just like big days on the bike. Again, building up for this Whistler EWS. It's the hometown, you wanna do good. I was leading the Wednesday night downhill series by that point, which is like, if you're local, it's a pretty prestigious thing. So, you know, World Cup Wednesday, most people know about it. But yeah, a couple days before Crankworx is rolling into town, we always have the final like Wednesday night race, and it was down Schleyer to Canadian Open. It's like the famous race right before Crankworx. I had no business being there because like I should have been resting, getting ready for the EWS, but I was like, you know what, this will be good practice. Like if I can ride this, you know, on my trail bike at a good speed, then I know I'll be ready for the EWS. But I had a super nasty crash. We've got some good pictures of that. I broke a rib, I broke my wrist again, and yeah, I was gutted. I was on the side of the trail. That feeling that you get when you haven't even hit the ground, but you're still airborne and you're just like, this sucks. Not only because I'm gonna be injured, but like all this preparation I've been doing to be at the EWS, to get a good result, it's gone now. I can't ride. So my first race back, I believe it was Transcascadia. It's a 4-day race in like Washington, Oregon. I had already paid for it. And so that was my goal. And always when you get injured, like you can't just sit there and wallow in self-pity. Like you have to make a goal and carry on with it. So I broke my wrist. It was probably like July 30th, like 2 weeks before the EWS. And I told myself like, okay, you're doing nothing. You're gonna totally get better. You're going to Transcascadia. And honestly, when I went down there, I was driving down to Washington and just, I didn't know. I didn't know if I could do it. I hadn't really ridden a bike until that moment. Let's just do it. And I took it stage by stage, day by day, had like the most fun ever, but was in a ton of pain, obviously. And did well. I got second at that one, so I was pretty jazzed. And then yeah, a couple weeks after that, Jason at Pinkbike reached out, was like, hey, we want to do a hot lap. And I just said yes. I knew that this opportunity probably wasn't going to come back around again. So I was like, yep, down, let's do it. The relationship started to build a little bit more. And then, yeah, I think it was Brian and Jason that kind of reached out and just said, hey, do you want to have a chat? You know, just let's see what our options are, if you'd maybe be interested in helping Pinkbike at that point. I don't think I had in mind that, you know, anything was really gonna come of it, anything big or life-changing even, but I was like, oh yeah, sure, like maybe we could do a full enduro series with me next year instead of Zoe, or we could do privateer or something, but little did I know, you know, it's gonna be the full meal deal. Lucky me. There were many emotions. I think when the offer kind of came on the table, it was immediately yes, like whatever I gotta do, yes, let's do this, let's build on it. Honestly though, I had no idea what I was getting into. It was also like, it was a bit daunting, you know, going from what I would say is an easy job. You know, shop life is fun. There's no stress. When you walk out at the end of the day, like you're not taking any of that business with you. People just get to interact with you. They're on vacation. They're there to have fun and you're there to like stoke them up. So I guess it was a bit natural transition in that way. Like I still love stoking people up. I'm always myself, which is how I would have been in the shop as well. So I guess I haven't changed a lot myself, just my job title. The hardest part of my job for me is being original, like coming up with ideas that people want to see, that people are interested in, that somebody that's a bit newer to the sport can actually learn something, and maybe somebody that's been in the sport for a while, maybe they just keep learning more, or I can enlighten them to something that they hadn't thought about before. But yeah, it's really hard to be creative and, you know, come up with these videos that people actually want to watch. The best part of my job, I would say, that's a tough one. I love my coworkers, especially the video team. Everybody really meshes well together. When I go work with anybody, like I don't feel like I need to do anything out of my comfort zone or be someone that I'm not. And I think that's really important. For me, making the videos on Pinkbike and more of the tutorial information-based stuff, like it just opens up a whole nother level. Not only are we pulling in these Pinkbike viewers that already know how to ride a bike, already know how to send some drops, they can get better at it, and just kind of creating this level of progression. The little videos that I've been doing lately, it's awesome work for me because it literally makes me stop and practice these maneuvers myself, which is something I haven't spent enough time on in the past. But then it's also bringing together like so many different people new to the sport. And if nothing else, like I think it's a really cool way to kind of bridge the gap of, say, the parents and the kids. You know, kids these days, they're like getting good, riding with the parents, and then all of a sudden they're way better than the parents, and it's just no fun anymore. And the parents are like, okay, go off and have fun without me. My little riding buddy's gone now. So if we can kind of bridge that gap, and you know, maybe a mom and a son can watch a video like that together, and then they can go find a little featured session. You know, everybody's progressing and getting better, but more than anything, I think it's about having fun, not taking it too seriously, and yeah, just letting the sky be the limit. Don't ever top yourself out. Moving forward in 2021, I want to get back to the things that I love, that keep me super stoked on mountain biking. So racing is obviously a big one. Traveling for me is a huge deal. Interacting with the local communities, having your bike be a way that you can do that. It's so cool when you go somewhere, you don't speak the language, but because you're on a bicycle and homie over here's on a bicycle, it's like you guys can communicate, you can have a sick rundown. I would love, like my ideal situation would be to get back to the races, but to offer like some awesome behind the scenes kind of videos for the viewers out there. Because a lot of times what you see are the highlight reels, or oh, Richie Rude won again, and Cecile Ravenel won again. And you know, that's fun, and they're awesome people to look up to. But the reason I do mountain biking and the reason I like to be competitive is totally different. It's the camaraderie that you get with it, and the adventure, and going these places that you can't drive or you can't get a gondola to. So I definitely want to bring a bit more of enlightenment of those places to the viewers, and just inspire them to get out there and do something different. I would say for the people that want to get into the sport or just want to pursue it further, like, be inspired by those around you. Don't let little obstacles get in your way. I went from literally not knowing how to ride a bike to being a competitive racer on the scene in a couple of years. And it wasn't just because I was like born with this natural talent. It was because I literally like poured all my energy and all my passion into this sport. Even if you get into it and you're in the masters category, you know, it's never too late. Like, everybody bikes, it's for everyone.